And also, we have a special guest all the way from London, England, as you saw within the video, Premier Christian Radio throughout. And a lot of the testimonies that you heard came from that region. And as we look and we see of what changed lives are and what is happening within the confines of the UK, Peter Kerridge, a great friend and CEO and minister there in the UK, CEO of Premier Christian Radio, is with us today to share of what God is doing throughout the UK with PowerPoint Ministries and Prestonwood Baptist Church. So please welcome Peter Kerridge to the pulpit today.
Well, thanks for inviting me along. It's really great to be with you. I come from London, and it's really great to be here. It's good to see the colonies and see how you're doing. I have to say, things are going well, aren't they? They're really good. I work in Westminster in the heart of London. I take a 2-hour train ride every morning. I get off at that Big Ben clock every day, and I walk past the Houses of Parliament to our studios. And that Parliament is one of the oldest in the world, and it's very adversarial. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the two parties of government sit side by side, and the opposition wave their ballot papers if they like what's being said, and they boo and they heckle when they don't. You have papers in front of you. Have you got an envelope? If you've got an envelope, would you just give me a wave with it just now? Just give me a wave. I just like a little vote of confidence as I begin here. Now, I want you to hold it in your hand, and I'm going to read you something that I wrote for Easter Sunday in the church that I go to. I'm a Baptist minister, and on Easter Sunday, I had to say in 30 words what Jesus being alive meant to me. And this is what I said: because he's alive, I have hope. Do you agree with that? Give me a wave. Because he's alive, I have a new way of living. Keep waving. Because he's alive, I have forgiveness. Because he's alive, the arms of heaven are open wide for me. Because he's alive, I have a source of strength, a joy despite the circumstances, and a peaceful assurance that all will be well. Do you agree? Give me a wave. The gospel is the same in the UK as it is in Dallas. But I have to tell you that the church is very different. We have had the greatest theologians. We got the printing press. We had some of the greatest preachers ever. But our church right now is splintered and broken and really difficult right now. In fact, until 1990, it was impossible. It was illegal for Christian organizations, the Christian church, to have a broadcast license. You couldn't broadcast the Christian faith in the UK until the Act of 1990 changed that. And in 1995, after a whole lot of petitioning and lobbying and working, Premier Christian Radio was launched. Still, the only major Christian broadcast initiative in the UK. And we are, by definition, only because we're around, the biggest Christian broadcaster in Europe. And we have hundreds of thousands of people every day. The whole church got behind it. Everybody from the Catholic, the Orthodox, the Methodist, Baptist, all the way through the Pentecostals came around the idea that Premier should be around. And we are now there with a mandate to broadcast the whole of the gospel from the whole of the church to the whole of the UK and beyond. And we are very, very pleased that PowerPoint have chosen to partner with us. You are here in the luxury Bible Belt, as it were. You have so many things to be grateful for. Do you know, I was looking at the choir just now and trying to tot up in my mind how many people there were, and I work out that there are 10 times as many people in the choir than the average church in the UK has. The average church is about 50 people. There's 500 or so behind me. So your choir is 10 churches in London. There is not an auditorium like this in the whole of the UK or indeed Europe. The biggest church we have is 8,000 Pentecostals in East London. I'll tell you more about East London in a second. But by and large, the church is broken, shattered maybe in some places, and lacking hope and vision. There are some signs of growth. One of the great things is that the Commonwealth countries have sent people across, and the African and the Caribbean community who've come and settled in the UK have a higher degree of religiosity than the UK nationals, and actually are now becoming almost the evangelists to re-evangelize the country. Added to that, the fall of the Berlin Wall and the Eastern Europeans coming and finding in the West a greater degree of living and prosperity and the freedom to express their faith has seen that Catholic churches across the country are beginning to become vibrant again. But there is nothing like Prestonwood in Europe. Your special needs facility, what a marvelous thing that is. If there was one of those in London, I believe that the Christian population would be able to minister in a really effective way. If there was anything like the education program that you have, how much more strong would Christian people be? And my vision is that every city in the UK, at least, has a Prestonwood church. And I believe that you and I together can be part of that reality. I know things are tough. I went to the mall yesterday. I went to Galleria. It wasn't very busy. Maybe I went at the wrong time. Maybe I should have gone this afternoon. But whatever it is, there was hardly anyone there, and the mall was very similar to the ones in the UK. We're having a tough time. But you know, love costs. The reason why PowerPoint are on the air in London is they want to share this great gospel that we have with as many people as possible. You have, and you may take it for granted, one of the greatest communicators of our age here every Sunday. And that is, yeah, wave your little things. That is a truth that you maybe need to realize again and again. And God has given us these mechanisms to get the gospel out. This is what C.S. Lewis said about love. Love anything and your heart will be wrung and possibly broken. If you want to make sure of keeping it intact, you must give it to no one, not even an animal. Wrap it carefully round with hobbies and little luxuries. Avoid all entanglements. Lock it up safe in the casket or coffin of your selfishness. But in that casket, safe, dark, motionless, airless, it will change. It will not be broken. It will become unbreakable, impenetrable, irredeemable. To love is to be vulnerable. C.S. Lewis was right. Love costs. And in these difficult times, Premier is continuing to try and draw the church together. And through these ministries that we are able to really drive home, to encourage people, Christian men and women, boys and girls, families, churches, communities, to reach out to the people around them. 2012 sees the Olympics come to town. London will be the host to the world. I'm not sure that we can do a China. Things have changed since then. But we are going to do our best to welcome the world and to show what London's all about. Our church needs to be well and thriving to do so. And so for the next few years, we're launching a campaign called Love London. And next year, we're going to roll it out to the whole of the UK, and we're going to call it Love GB. And what we're going to try and do is to encourage the church to work together in meaningful ways, and in so doing, reach out to the people around them. You know, we are one of the most multicultural cities in the world, if not the most multicultural society. I have a mosque a stone's throw from my office. We have a huge Muslim community, and the church needs to be relevant. Richard Dawkins. Anybody heard of Richard Dawkins? Richard Dawkins is a scientist, a militant atheist now. And he has a campaign going where people have to debaptize themselves, are encouraged to do so, and they get a certificate. And 100,000 people have said that they made a mistake, or their families made a mistake, in getting them baptized as kids, and they want nothing to do with religion. We have launched in the last 10 days a campaign called IamAChristian.org. And we're asking people to stand up and be glad and prove that they're Christian men and women in this age. We want to reach out with the gospel. And together, with you and this ministry, I am convinced that we can do marvelous things. You know, there are only two questions that human beings have ever fought over all through history. It's how much do you love me and who's in charge? Jesus answers both those questions. God loves us and he wants to be in charge of our lives. You know what? It's the anniversary of William Shakespeare's birth this week. He died on the day he was born. Isn't that unlucky? Really unlucky. But he came and he tried to communicate truths a few hundred years ago. These mechanisms we have today communicate truth so well. And the church and broadcast media can do a whole host of things. And I am really happy that Jack Graham, PowerPoint, Prestonwood Church are our partners in this wonderful thing that we call the ministry of the gospel. Give me a wave because you haven't booed. Thank you for listening.